Imagine a generation, one that has never known a world without artificial intelligence. They're not just digital natives, There's something else. AI naturals.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating and, yeah, sometimes a little bit unnerving world of Generation Beta. These are the children born from 2025 all the way through 2039.
That's right.
Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack how ubiquitous AI is set to profoundly influence their development. We're talking from their earliest days, right through to young adulthood, and eventually, how they step into the workforce.
Yeah, it's a massive scope. We're looking at the exciting opportunities, definitely, but also facing up to some of the sobering challenges Gen Beta will encounter growing up surrounded by this ambient AI, this kind of invisible, always-on intelligence.
Right, it's just there.
It is. And it's more than just a passing trend. This feels like a really fundamental shift. So to understand what it truly means to be born into an AI-driven world, we've pulled together insights from, well, a whole array of sources.
What kind of sources are we talking about?
Hmm?
We've got cutting-edge academic research, some forward-looking futurist predictions, important policy reports coming out, and detailed industry analyses, too. We've tried to cover the gamut. Look at everything from smart toys, the ones that talk back, and AI tutors, right up to the broader societal implications, trying to paint a comprehensive picture for you.
That's a lot to consider. Okay, so let's dive in. Who exactly is Generation Beta, and why this term, AI naturals?
Well, what's truly unique about Generation Beta, what sets them apart, is they will be the very first cohort to experience AI as just a fully embedded part of daily life, right from the moment they're born. For them, that divide we often talk about between the physical and digital worlds, it's just not going to exist in the same way it does for us. It'll be much more blurred, much more integrated.
So they won't remember a time before smart devices.
Exactly. They will never know a world without smart devices all around, intelligent toys, virtual assistants constantly in the background, answering questions, playing music, and these algorithmic systems subtly shaping their interactions, their choices, everything. And the scale is just staggering. Demographers are predicting that by 2035, this generation will number over 2 billion people.
2 billion.
2 billion.
Yeah.
Making up about, 16% of the global population? Think about that. 2 billion people for whom AI is as normal as expected as electricity is for us today.
Wow. 2 billion people with AI is just a constant companion. That's hard to wrap your head around. And the sources indicate that right from infancy, many in Gen Beta will form these early, quite intimate relationships with AI companions. This isn't just about a fancy baby monitor anymore, is it?
No, not at all. We're talking everything from cuddly smart toys that, learn their preferences and respond to their moods, to talking voice assistants they interact with daily, asking questions, playing games, maybe even getting bedtime stories read by an AI.
And as they grow,
Well, the trajectory suggests they'll likely rely on personalized AI tutors for learning, and perhaps even forms of AI caretakers. It signals a really profound shift away from a purely human-centric model of early development.
it sounds like a whole new kind of social fabric is being woven right now.
That's it, exactly. And this pervasive influence, particularly from things like generative AI and machine learning, the stuff that creates content, makes predictions, that's what will fundamentally shape how Gen Beta learns, how they play, how they socialize, and ultimately how they approach work.
It touches everything.
It really does. Psychologist Jean Twenge, who's a leading voice in generational studies, she highlights that while lots of things differentiate generations' economics, major world events technology is arguably the most powerful force driving those differences. And for Gen Beta, AI is unequivocally that defining technology.
So AI is to Gen Beta what maybe the internet was to millennials or smartphones to Gen Z?
Sort of, but potentially even more deeply embedded from an earlier age. Twenge actually muses that if having AI friends or even, get this, AI romantic partners becomes commonplace, and our sources suggest it very well, she says, it could have an enormous impact on social development.
Wow. Imagine a childhood where your closest confidant is often an algorithm. That's quite something.
It is. It raises huge questions.
That's a powerful thought, the idea of AI companions potentially reshaping the very nature of social bonds. So, okay, if AI is their constant companion, their background noise, their tool, what does this mean for their education? Let's turn our attention there first. The classroom, or maybe the virtual classroom.
Yeah, education is definitely one of the first and most obvious places we'll see a huge impact. It truly stands to be revolutionized for Generation Beta by these AI-powered tools. From early childhood, many will be engaging with AI-enabled learning apps, conversational tutors that can chat with them about subjects, intelligent educational games.
And the big promise here is personalization,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Doing it at scale.
Exactly. Personalized learning at an unprecedented scale. Think about AI tutors that can adapt in real time to each child's unique needs and pace. They can offer continuous, tailored support that, let's be honest, a human teacher stretched thin with 30 kids in a classroom simply can't provide around the clock.
I can see the immediate appeal. We've all heard about adaptive learning platforms, but for Gen Beta, it sounds like these AI systems will be constantly adjusting exercises based on how the child is doing right now,
Mm-hmm.
providing really targeted support for students who are struggling, but also maybe accelerating things for those who are getting it quickly.
Precisely. The idea or the hope is that no student needs to fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
Not if there's a tireless AI tutor always available to reteach a concept in a different way or provide more practice or offer enrichment. It's essentially providing a bespoke curriculum almost for every single child.
That potential for equity seems huge too. You mentioned closing achievement gaps.
Yes, this level of personalization holds significant potential there, and also for promoting greater inclusion. Some early trials cited in our sources show promising signs. AI can devote far more individual attention to each learner than a human teacher managing a large class. And think about accessibility. AI translation for language barriers, text-to-speech for reading difficulties, visual aids generated on the fly. These can drastically improve learning for children with disabilities.
Like those smart learning toys.
Exactly. Those are already helping children with cognitive or motor impairments develop skills through customized interactive play. The toy adapts the challenges based on the child's specific needs and progress.
And it's not just about drills and repetition, is it? The goal is engagement.
Hopefully not just drills, no. Well-designed AI tools, something like Khan Academy's Conmigo is often cited, can make learning incredibly interactive. The aim here isn't just to feed answers, but to encourage critical thinking.
How does that work?
By guiding students with hints, maybe asking probing questions instead of just giving the solution, it nudges them toward figuring things out themselves, fostering problem-solving skills, maybe even creativity. An AI reading companion, for instance, could pause during a story and ask, "Why do you think the character did that?" rather than just narrating.
So the AI becomes more of a guide, a Socratic partner, than just a knowledge dispenser.
That's the ideal, yes.
Mm.
And beyond direct student interaction, AI also offers significant teacher augmentation. Imagine AI handling the routine stuff, grading simple quizzes, managing administrative tasks, providing instant feedback on practice exercises.
That would free up teachers enormously.
It really could, freeing human teachers to focus on the deeper stuff. Mentorship, social-emotional learning, fostering collaboration, that invaluable human connection that AI, for all its sophistication, just cannot replicate.
So ultimately for Gen Beta, this constant exposure means they'll just naturally acquire AI literacy, understanding how it works, how to use it, and maybe how to question it.
That's the expectation. It becomes an intrinsic part of their schooling. Knowing how to effectively use AI and, crucially, how to evaluate its outputs, its potential biases, that's going to be a vital workforce skill in the AI-driven economy they inherit. They'll need to speak the language of algorithms, so to speak.
Okay, all of that sounds incredibly promising, almost like a sci-fi future arriving in the classroom, but there's always the other side of the coin. What are the risks? What are the challenges lurking in this AI-enhanced educational landscape?
Well, there are definitely significant concerns. A foremost one, highlighted by educators and psychologists we looked at, is the potential for superficial learning, maybe even an erosion of genuine critical thinking. If the AI systems primarily reward students for producing expected answer patterns, hitting the keywords the algorithm is looking for, children might learn to mimic analytical reasoning without truly grappling with complex ideas. One 2025 analysis actually called this phenomenon sophisticated academic manipulation. Students might appear to be having high-level discussions with an AI tutor, but they could just be skillfully parroting phrases or structures the algorithm likes.
So they learn how to game the AI rather than actually understanding the material deeply.
That's the risk. It's like teaching them to pass the test without really getting the concepts. Psychologist Timothy Cook warns about this. If we train kids to constantly seek the instant validation of AI, we risk raising a generation that just defers to algorithmic judgment. They might lose the habit or maybe even the capacity for independent critical reasoning.
And beyond that, there's the more straightforward risk of dependency, right?
Yeah.
And cheating.
Oh, absolutely. Easy AI answers, just asking ChatGPT or a similar tool to do your homework, could profoundly undermine learning integrity. Why struggle with a math problem or wrestle with an essay outline if the answer is just a query away? It potentially short-circuits the learning process itself, the part where you build the ability to solve problems unaided.
That leads to another major concern you mentioned earlier, bias.
Yes, algorithmic bias is a critical challenge. Educational AI, like any AI, can inadvertently absorb and then reinforce societal biases present in the data it was trained on. That Dutch study you mentioned is a stark example.
Remind me of that one.
It found an AI learning system was systematically giving easier assignments to students from low-income and immigrant backgrounds, regardless of their actual performance. The AI had essentially learned a biased correlation from historical data.
So it was holding them back based on their background, not their ability.
Effectively, yes. It reflected societal bias, and by lowering expectations, it risked creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of inequality. The AI, without any malicious intent, was propagating existing societal divides within the classroom.
That's a huge red flag. If the tool meant to help personalize learning is actually embedding inequality, that's deeply problematic.
It absolutely is. And then there are the privacy concerns, which are massive in education. EdTech AI systems, by their nature, collect incredibly sensitive student data. We're talking academic performance, learning patterns, behavioral observations, maybe even emotional responses inferred from interactions.
And what happens to that data?
That's the question. Without really robust safeguards, strong regulations, ethical design, this data could be misused, breached, potentially sold to third parties. Imagine your entire childhood learning profile, your struggles, your strengths, following you into adulthood, accessible to future employers or universities.
That feels like a violation waiting to happen.
It's a significant risk. And finally, there's the human element. An over-reliance on AI tutors might significantly reduce crucial face-to-face interaction, both with teachers and with peers.
Why is that interaction so important?
Because that's where so much social learning happens. Children learn empathy, negotiation, collaboration, conflict resolution, not by chatting with an algorithm, but by interacting with other messy, unpredictable human beings. Navigating friendships, resolving playground squabbles, reading subtle social cues. AI can't teach that.
So we're left with this kind of paradox, aren't we? AI in education could be amazing for individual learning, preparing kids for the future, but it also threatens to hollow out the learning process itself if we're not careful.
Exactly, it's a paradox.
So what's the path forward? How do we strike that balance?
Well, the consensus seems to be that realizing the benefits requires really careful integration. AI should be seen as a tool under human guidance, not a replacement for teachers. It means robust teacher training, so educators understand how to leverage AI effectively while still focusing on cultivating those essential human skills. And crucially, it means teaching AI literacy to the students themselves.
Making them critical users.
Yes. Educators, parents too, will need to emphasize that AI can be a helpful assistant, but it's not infallible. It's not an oracle. Children must learn to question AI outputs, understand its limitations, spot potential bias, and rely on their own independent reasoning. As one assistant professor put it, AI can benefit children's growth and learning, but AI literacy is essential.
So the school's Gen Beta 10 will need this constant balancing act. High-tech personalization alongside intentional cultivation of human critical thinking and socialization skills.
That's the challenge, finding that equilibrium.
And that balance is key, not just in schools, but moving right into the most intimate spaces of their lives, their homes. Let's talk about parenting and home life. Smart helpers, smart toys everywhere, but also potentially constant surveillance.
You're right. The home is where AI's presence will be perhaps most pervasive and personal for Gen Beta. Their parents, who are largely millennials and Gen Z, are already pretty tech savvy. They're likely adopters of AI-powered tools for childcare, for household management, you name it. We're talking right from infancy. Many Gen Beta babies might be cradled in what people are calling smart nurseries.
Smart nurseries, what does that entail?
Think AI-enhanced baby monitors that don't just show video, but track breathing patterns, sleep quality, maybe even detect cries and analyze them. Health trackers woven into clothing, even robotic bassinets that respond to a baby's fussing by gently rocking them back to sleep automatically.
Wow, AI nannies right from birth.
In a way, yes. And as these children grow, parents might lean heavily on virtual assistants for all sorts of things. Asking for parenting advice, hey Google, how do I handle a toddler tantrum? scheduling family routines, maybe even co-watching kids remotely via AI-enabled cameras that can flag falls or unusual activity.
There's a whole market emerging for this, isn't there? AI co-parenting apps.
Absolutely. Apps and gadgets promising to simplify parenting logistics, enhance safety monitoring. They really do augment parents' capabilities in some ways, providing extra eyes and ears to keep children safe, like an app that detects inappropriate content on a child's tablet. And they can offer analytic insights too, tracking developmental milestones by analyzing video footage, for example, which could then personalize caregiving advice for the parents.
Okay, and then there are the toys. Smart toys and AI companions seem like they'll be huge for Gen Beta.
Definitely. This is one of the most prominent aspects. We're talking everything from cuddly robot pets that learn a child's preferences to AI-enhanced dolls that can hold conversations to app-connected learning toys. They use AI to personalize the play and learning experience, adapting to the child's interests and responses. A smart toy might learn a child's favorite songs or topics and tailor its interactions accordingly.
And ideally, these toys are more than just novelties. They can actually be educational.
That's the hope and the pitch. They can be engaging educators, teaching vocabulary, storytelling skills, even basic coding concepts through interactive play. The World Economic Forum actually noted that smart toys hold enormous promise for adaptive learning, making it fun, and also for helping kids with special needs practice cognitive or social skills in a low-stress, playful way.
Some are even designed explicitly as friends, right? Interactive companions.
Yes, some robotic companions are positioned as interactive friends. They respond to the child's voice, answer questions, maybe even express simulated emotions. It's entirely conceivable that many young children in Gen Beta will have an AI playmate as just a normal part of their toy collection.
Providing companionship 24/7.
Right. Always available, always agreeable companionship, which could potentially reduce loneliness, maybe stimulate imagination, especially for only children. It's a friend who's never busy, never moody.
But that convenience, that innovation, it comes with some pretty big concerns. Privacy, security, how it affects the parent-child dynamic. Our sources highlighted these quite strongly.
They did, and rightly so. An always-on smart toy or home assistant really blurs the line between a nurturing friend and a potential surveillance device. If they're not designed and regulated properly, that cuddly AI doll could effectively turn into a spy in the playroom,
Recording everything.
potentially recording a child's every word, aggregating incredibly intimate data about their thoughts, fears, family life. We saw this with the My Friend Calla doll a few years back.
That was the one that got banned.
Yes, it was banned in Germany and flagged elsewhere as an illegal surveillance tool because it's found to be transmitting children's conversations to servers without adequate security and could even be accessed by strangers nearby via Bluetooth. It was a real wake-up call.
That's truly alarming. And experts warn that even if the data isn't accessed by strangers, the data that makes the toy smart could be misused down the line.
Exactly. Without strong data protections, think about it. A toy that listens to a child from age 3 to 9 could compile a psychological profile far more detailed than even the parents realize. What happens to that data?
Could it be sold?
That's the fear. It could potentially be sold to marketers, maybe used to build profiles for later targeting, or worse, accessed by data brokers, potentially impacting future opportunities like college admissions or job applications. The World Economic Forum painted a chilling scenario where a Gen Beta teen might be unknowingly assessed based on behavioral data. Their smart doll, collected in early childhood, recorded temper tantrums, patterns of defiance.
So your childhood smart toy data could come back to haunt you years later.
It's a theoretical risk, but one that raises profound questions. It could mean the family's home life is no longer private in a very fundamental way if this intimate data leaks or is commercialized without oversight.
This really brings up the issue of children's data rights, doesn't it? Can a child even consent to this?
Not meaningfully, no. Which is why our sources discuss calls for new policies. Things like data erasure at adulthood, similar to the right to be forgotten in Europe, but specifically for data collected on minors. The idea is that when a Gen Beta individual turns 18, they could request deletion of all that childhood data, giving them a clean slate, digitally speaking.
A chance to control their own past digital footprint.
Precisely. It's about giving them agency over data collected when they were too young to understand the implications.
Okay, beyond the data issues, there's also what you call the pseudo-parent risk. Can you unpack that?
Sure. While AI can undoubtedly assist parents, there's a temptation to offload responsibilities onto the tech. If a smart speaker can read endless bedtime stories or a robot can play games with a child for hours, parents might unintentionally reduce their own direct interactions. And psychologists really urge caution here. No AI, no matter how sophisticated, can replace the warmth, the responsiveness, the nuanced understanding of human parenting. Children need that face-to-face bonding, affection, unstructured play with their caregivers for healthy emotional and social development.
So relying too much on digital babysitters could actually affect attachment.
It potentially could, yes, and impact social learning. Michelle Beaupre, a clinical director cited in our research, warns that Gen Beta kids might become distant from their parents and friends, maybe preferring to engage with virtual characters or immersive digital worlds. She notes that while these AI interactions might make kids very creative in terms of fantasy play, they simply cannot teach the subtleties of human communication, empathy, negotiation skills learned through real-world social interactions. The recommendation is for parents to consciously carve out offline family time and prioritize human connection, even as tech becomes more integrated.
That makes sense. And lastly, what about the psychological impact of just being watched all the time, the constant surveillance within the home?
Yeah, that's another layer. Many Gen Beta children will grow up under near constant digital watch. Parents tracking their location via GPS, monitoring online chats with AI filters, maybe cameras scanning the nursery or playroom.
On one hand, that sounds safer, maybe?
It could enhance safety, yes, preventing accidents, alerting parents to potential online dangers. But on the other hand, it might create a climate of pervasive monitoring that impacts a child's sense of autonomy, trust, and willingness to take risks. If children feel every mistake or deviation is recorded and potentially reported, they might become overly cautious, anxious, risk-averse. Or, conversely, they might become really adept at evading and outsmarting the surveillance systems. Finding that balance between protection and privacy, allowing kids space to grow and make mistakes without constant oversight, that's going to be key for their sense of self.
So, summarizing the home front, AI is a real double-edged sword. Unprecedented support and personalization for parents and kids, but also serious intrusions into family intimacy and privacy.
That's the core tension. Parents, and importantly, the companies making these products, will need to champion strong privacy safeguards, clear rules against sharing or selling kids' data, and crucially, maintain human-centered parenting. The goal should be using AI to enhance well-being and learning without surrendering the absolutely irreplaceable value of human love, spontaneous play, and unmonitored personal growth.
That's a crucial distinction. And these profound influences, they don't stop at the home or the classroom doors. They ripple right through every aspect of cognitive and emotional development. How will growing up with AI companions and algorithms truly shape Gen Beta's minds and hearts?
This is a huge area of ongoing psychological study and, frankly, speculation. We're talking about social and emotional learning, SEL. Young children traditionally learn social cues, empathy, communication skills through countless interactions with people, parents, siblings, peers. If a significant portion of their interactions shifts towards AI entities, chatbots, virtual characters in games, robot companions, we have to ask, how will this affect their ability to relate to real people?
Are there potential upsides? Could AI help teach social skills?
Well, some educational AI and robotics projects aim to do just that. For instance, having children interact with a social robot designed to help them recognize different emotions or practice appropriate social responses in a controlled way, that's one potential positive application.
But there's a significant risk here too, isn't there? You mentioned earlier how easily kids can treat AI as lifelike.
Yes, studies consistently show that children, especially younger ones, are particularly susceptible to treating AI chatbots as lifelike, quasi-human confidants. They often trust them unconditionally. In fact, some research indicates children will sometimes disclose more about their feelings or problems to a friendly robot than to a human adult.
So Gen Beta kids might form really deep attachments to these AI companions, telling their smart toy secrets, seeking comfort from an AI friend when they're sad.
It's highly likely, and this could either supplement their human relationships, providing an extra outlet, or, worryingly, it could supplant human bonds. Psychologists have definitely raised flags about this potential for overattachment.
What are the specific concerns?
Dr. Brianna Moore, a bioethicist we looked at, notes there's evidence children attribute moral standing and mental life to robots. She warns that young kids could become so attached to chatbots or AI toys that it comes at the expense of building healthy relationships with people. A child might start preferring the predictable, undemanding, always available robot friend over the sometimes confusing, challenging realm of human peers.
And that could hinder development.
It risks hindering the development of crucial skills like empathy, reciprocity, conflict resolution, things you primarily learn through navigating messy human interactions. Dr. Nomisha Kurian highlights what she calls the empathy gap in AI. Children confiding in an AI might get a response, but it lacks genuine, nuanced emotional support. And worse, as we've touched on, badly designed or unregulated AI might even give inappropriate or actively harmful responses. We saw this with incidents involving Alexa suggesting dangerous challenges, or Snapchat's My AI giving problematic advice. These aren't just theoretical risks, they've happened.
That's chilling. The idea that an AI could give actively harmful advice to a vulnerable child. And what about basic communication skills, language development? I know sometimes my own kids sound like little drill sergeants talking to our smart speaker. Alexa, play song. Is that a real concern? That constant interaction with AI might lead to different speech patterns, maybe less polite interaction?
Huh. Yes, that's a very relatable concern. And there is indeed worry among some developmental experts that constant interaction with obliging AI servants could make children less practiced in polite social dialogue, unless it's intentionally counteracted. If you never have to say please or thank you to get a machine to do what you want, those social niceties might not get reinforced naturally.
But could AI also model good behavior?
On the flip side, yes. AI companions could be explicitly programmed to model good manners, maybe requiring please and thank you before responding. That could potentially help reinforce positive communication habits. But again, this hinges entirely on conscious, careful design choices by the developers. It won't happen automatically.
Okay, shifting slightly. What about identity formation? Their worldview. You mentioned algorithmic feeds earlier.
Right. Algorithmic feeds and highly personalized content mean Gen Beta's media consumption, their cultural diet, will be incredibly tailored from a very young age. Mark McCrindle, a social researcher, observes that their formative years will be deeply marked by this personalization.
Hmm.
Now, this could be a double-edged sword. The upside, content can be better aligned to a child's specific interests, possibly nurturing talents or passions early on. The downside, a significant risk of bubble filtering.
Explain that.
It means children might get so used to hyper-personalized content streams, algorithms feeding them more of what they already like, that they inadvertently develop a narrower worldview. They might have less exposure to diverse perspectives, different genres, serendipitous discovery of things outside their established preferences. If a child rarely encounters content they find challenging or even just dislike, they could potentially develop lower tolerance for differing viewpoints, or even for boredom itself, which can affect cognitive flexibility.
And this connects to critical thinking too, right? If answers are always easy to get.
Exactly. If answers and explanations are always just a quick voice query away, hey, AI, explain photosynthesis, Gen Beta children might have fewer opportunities for that productive intellectual struggle, that imaginative play where you try to figure things out for yourself. The creative benefit of boredom, which often spurred past generations to invent games or stories or just daydream, might be harder to come by when an AI can instantly entertain or provide information on demand.
Although conversely, AI creativity tools could also spark new forms of imagination.
That's the other side, yes. A child could co-create a story with an AI, asking it to generate fantastical plot twists or characters. They could instantly visualize their wildest ideas using generative image models. Show me a purple giraffe flying over a city made of cheese. Early evidence suggests AI can stimulate creativity, but mainly when used intentionally as a collaborative partner, a sort of brainstorming buddy.
The key seems to be keeping the child in the driver's seat, ensuring they remain an active creator, not just a passive consumer of AI outputs.
That seems to be the crucial distinction, yes. Overall, the cognitive and emotional impact of ubiquitous AI on Gen Beta is going to be profound and multifaceted. On one hand, they may become more globally connected, more culturally aware through constant online interaction, maybe aided by real-time translation AI. They could develop unique digital skills, perhaps becoming adept multitaskers. Indeed, Matrindle and others expect Gen Beta to be potentially more globally minded, community-focused, and collaborative than ever, partly because they grow up with tech connecting them beyond local boundaries. But on the other hand, they will face novel challenges, navigating the increasingly blurred lines between human and machine interactions, learning self-regulation in a world offering instant gratification at every turn, building a stable sense of identity amidst constantly shifting algorithmic influences and curated online personas.
So, given all this, how can parents and educators best support healthy development? How do we help them navigate this complex landscape and harness the benefits while mitigating the risks?
Our sources consistently point towards several key strategies. First and foremost, Encourage and prioritize human interaction.
Offline time.
Yes. Playdates, team sports, family dinners without devices, unstructured outdoor play. Ensuring kids get plenty of rich, real-world, human-to-human social experience. These fundamental interactions build crucial social and emotional skills that AI simply cannot teach.
Yes.
Second, teach about AI early and explicitly. Help children understand that AI agents aren't people. They don't have feelings, intentions, or consciousness in the human sense. And crucially, their knowledge can be flawed, incomplete, or biased.
So foster critical evaluation.
Exactly. This prevents overtrust and promotes the habit of critically evaluating AI responses. Help them understand the limits of the technology. Third, cultivate a balanced media diet. Intentionally expose kids to a broad range of content and experiences outside the algorithmic feeds. Physical books, nature exploration, diverse opinions, different cultures, maybe even just quiet time. This helps build a well-rounded worldview and cognitive flexibility, counteracting the potential narrowing effect of filter bubbles.
And finally,
Fourth, joint engagement. Don't just let kids use AI gadgets alone. Use them together. Co-play with a smart toy. Discuss an answer Alexa or Google Assistant gave. Use it as a starting point for a deeper conversation. Add human context, correct misinformation, talk about how the AI might have arrived at its answer. It's about co-piloting their digital journey, not just handing over the controls.
that makes a lot of sense. It comes back to what Jean Twenge said, that tech that shapes social relationships tends to have the biggest generational impact. For Gen Beta, that tech is undoubtedly AI.
Hmm.
The crucial societal task, then, will be ensuring AI shapes those relationships, positively augmenting humanity, fostering connection rather than negatively, leading towards isolation, superficiality, or diminished empathy.
Absolutely. And that brings us directly to the really profound implications for mental health and well-being. This is an area where AI could bring both transformative support and, frankly, some serious pitfalls for Generation Beta. By the time they reach adolescence, these youngsters will likely have a whole array of AI-driven mental health tools potentially available to them, some of which are already emerging today.
Okay, let's start with the positive side. How could AI help with mental health?
Well, one major potential benefit is addressing the chronic shortages we see in mental health care, especially for young people. AI could provide accessible, potentially stigma-free support on demand. Think about AI chatbots like Wobot or others being developed. They're designed to converse with users, monitor mood, maybe even deliver basic cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT techniques, through guided conversations.
And the appeal is the availability.
Exactly. These tools can be relatively inexpensive and they're available 24/7. That's especially appealing for a teenager who might be feeling anxious or depressed late at night, or who feels ashamed or uncomfortable talking to a human counselor. If a Gen Beta adolescent is struggling at 2 a.m., an AI confidant could be there to talk them through it, at least theoretically, when no human is easily reachable.
So it lowers the barrier to seeking help.
That's the hope. The constant accessibility and the anonymity might encourage young people to seek help earlier, maybe catching issues before they escalate. Some early research does indicate that some youth find it easier to open up initially to a non-judgmental AI than to a person, perhaps fearing judgment less.
And AI could potentially be more proactive too.
Yes, through monitoring. Wearable sensors, smartphone usage patterns, data points Gen Beta will generate constantly can be analyzed by AI to detect subtle early signs of trouble. Things like changes in sleep patterns, social media sentiment, communication frequency, patterns that might correlate with emerging anxiety or depression. Our sources even suggest schools might employ AI systems controversially, perhaps to flag at-risk students based on their digital activity, or maybe even facial expressions captured in class, alerting counselors for early intervention. The idea is prevention, catching kids before they fall.
While that raises privacy flags again, the intent is a safety net.
Right. Additionally, AI-driven content filters could theoretically reduce harm by blocking extremely triggering or graphic content for minors online. And algorithms could, in theory, be tuned to proactively promote positive, resilience-building material rather than harmful content.
Okay, that paints a picture of AI as a potential mental health ally. But what are the significant downsides, the uncharted risks that the sources highlight?
There are quite a few, and they're serious. Chief among them is the concern that AI chatbots, no matter how sophisticated they become, lack true empathy and contextual understanding, yet children and teens might come to rely on them as if they were trusted mentors or therapists.
Why is that lack of context so dangerous?
Because mental health professionals emphasize that children aren't just small adults, Their cognition is different, their decision-making is still developing, and therapy for kids almost always involves families, environmental context, and careful ethical safeguards. Dr. Moore pointed out that pediatric therapists never treat children in isolation. They involve caregivers, observe the child's environment. An AI chatbot operating solo in the wild with a child simply lacks the context to know when a situation is truly dangerous or requires external human intervention. It wouldn't reliably know if a child confiding about abuse is in immediate peril, or if a depressed teen expressing dark thoughts has access to lethal means. That nuanced, contextual human judgment is just missing.
And we've already seen examples of AI getting it wrong, haven't we?
Yes, unfortunately. We mentioned the incidents where unregulated AI helpers have erred badly, telling a child to engage in a dangerous physical challenge, giving inappropriate or harmful relationship advice. These incidents underscore that current AI systems don't possess an innate moral compass or a reliable filter for highly sensitive situations. And even with careful programming, things like AI hallucinations or unexpected off-script outputs can occur, leading to potentially harmful recommendations.
Another big risk seems to be that relying on AI could actually get in the way of developing real coping skills.
That's a major concern. If a teenager consistently turns to an AI confidant whenever they feel stressed or sad, instead of learning to talk to parents, friends, or school counselors, they might become more isolated in their struggles. The AI might offer some temporary comfort or distraction, but it can't truly solve underlying problems or provide the warmth, accountability, and reciprocal support that real human relationships do.
So it could erode their willingness or even ability to seek human help when things get serious.
It could potentially lead to that, yes. Furthermore, the reality is that most AI mental health apps currently available, especially those targeted at youth, are largely unregulated. There's often no real oversight, no guarantees of efficacy or safety. They could be based on flawed principles, give harmful advice, or fail to recognize and appropriately flag a genuine crisis situation.
And privacy, again, is a huge issue here.
Massive. These apps can gather extremely sensitive personal data, mood journals, fears, anxieties, relationship details. A data breach involving this kind of information could have devastating consequences for a young person's reputation, future prospects, or mental well-being.
And we can't forget the issue of equity and bias in this context either, can we?
Absolutely not. As Dr. Harrington noted, AI systems are only as good as the data they're trained on. If the training data isn't diverse, reflecting different cultures, backgrounds, and ways of speaking, the resulting chatbots might not serve all children equally. They might misunderstand cultural context, slang, or nuanced expressions of distress from certain communities.
Leading to less effective or even unsafe service for some kids.
That's the risk. And there's a real concern that the kids who might end up relying most heavily on free or low-cost AI therapy tools, perhaps due to lack of access or affordability of human therapists, might actually receive the poorest quality, most biased service. This could inadvertently create a two-tier system of mental health care, widening existing disparities.
So given this complex picture, what are the strategies for navigating this? How do we maximize the potential upsides while minimizing these very real harms?
Experts consistently recommend a multi-pronged approach. First, robust regulation and ongoing research are critical. We need standards for safety, efficacy, and privacy, especially for AI tools used with children. A proposed child-safe AI design framework, for instance, emphasizes treating child users as a special, vulnerable class, requiring extra safeguards, stricter content filters, clear indicators that they're talking to an AI, not a person, easy ways to escalate to human help.
So regulation is key. What else?
Second, embracing hybrid care models. The consensus is that AI should supplement, not replace, human support. Maybe a chatbot handles initial intake screening, provides psychoeducation, or helps with mood tracking between sessions, but a qualified human therapist oversees the treatment plan, provides the core therapeutic relationship, and makes critical judgments.
Combining the strengths of both.
Exactly. And third, AI literacy for youth themselves is vital. Teaching Gen Beta about the limitations of AI, for example, understanding that an AI friend might not keep secrets if it detects potential harm and is programmed to report it, can help them use these tools more judiciously and critically, understanding what they are and aren't good for.
So, wrapping up the mental health angle, AI has real potential to democratize access to basic support for Gen Beta, making help available anytime, anywhere. But for serious or complex issues, that human connection, empathy, and professional judgment remain irreplaceable.
Precisely. And over-reliance on AI could actually impair the development of social coping mechanisms and leave significant risks undetected. The goal has to be harnessing AI as a helpful tool, a potential safety net, an augmentation for mental wellness, while ensuring that genuine human empathy and professional care remain the anchor of the support system. Getting that balance right is absolutely crucial for Gen Beta's mental well-being.
Which brings us squarely to the broader ethical and privacy concerns that form the very backdrop of Gen Beta's existence. You used the phrase datafied from birth earlier. That sounds pretty profound.
It is profound. Gen Beta will truly come of age in an era where personal data is often called the new oil, and they will generate vast amounts of it, starting literally before they are born in some cases. Think about ultrasound images posted online by expectant parents, then baby monitor feeds capturing audio and video. School ed tech records tracking every click and score. Smart toys listening to playtime conversations. Wearables monitoring activity and location. Gen Beta children will have incredibly detailed digital footprints starting in infancy, often created without their knowledge or consent.
And this raises fundamental questions, doesn't it? Who actually owns a child's data? How can it possibly be protected? As you said, these kids can't meaningfully consent to this vast data collection, yet it could significantly shape their future opportunities or expose them to risks down the line.
Exactly. Consider sharenting parents, sharing photos, videos, milestones online. While often done with love and pride, it inadvertently compromises the child's future privacy. Some watchdog groups predict that by 2030, a shocking two-thirds of identity fraud cases affecting young people will stem from data shared online by parents years earlier.
Two-thirds? That's staggering.
It is. Parents unwittingly post details, full names, birth dates, school information that scammers or identity thieves can later exploit. And then there's the threat of AI-generated deepfakes.
Like that EU campaign video.
Yes, the Ella campaign video dramatically illustrated this. It showed a fictional adult politician being haunted by deepfake videos created from images her parents shared when she was a child, used to damage her reputation. This isn't just sci-fi. The technology exists. Deepfakes could be used for sophisticated bullying, blackmail, or reputation sabotage, targeting Gen Beta individuals using their childhood digital footprint. The point is, modern childhood now includes a persistent digital self alongside the physical self. And that digital persona can have an outsized influence on everything: future schooling, job prospects, relationships. In a very real sense for Gen Beta, control over their digital footprint might equal control over their future well-being and opportunities.
That makes the stakes incredibly high for this generation. It feels like every piece of online information, whether shared by them, their friends, or their parents, could potentially influence everything from social circles to job prospects later on. So what are the sources saying about data rights and regulation for minors in this brave new world?
Data rights from birth, or at least robust protections for children's data, are becoming a major focus. We mentioned the call for policies like data erasure at adulthood. The right for Gen Beta individuals to request deletion of data collected about them when they were minors, giving them a fresh start at 18. Regulators are definitely starting to scrutinize AI's impact on kids more closely. You have existing laws like COPPA in the U.S. requiring parental consent for collecting data from under 13s, but many feel these need updating. The EU's Comprehensive AI Act classifies AI systems that affect children as high risk, subjecting them to stricter requirements for safety, transparency, and oversight. And in the U.S., the proposed Kids Online Safety Act, KOSA, aims to hold online platforms more accountable for designing services that are safe for minors.
So there's movement, but it's complex.
It's complex and ongoing. There's a strong push for privacy by design principles to be embedded in AI toys and educational apps from the outset, and much greater transparency so parents actually understand what information is being collected about their children and how it's being used or shared.
Okay, beyond privacy, another major ethical concern you flagged is algorithmic bias and fairness. How does this play out for Gen Beta?
If Gen Beta grows up with AI making or influencing decisions all around them, from trivial ones like which video to watch next to really serious ones like which educational track they get placed in at school, or maybe even later, whether they get approved for a loan, then any biases baked into those algorithms could profoundly shape their life path, often invisibly.
And AI can inherit bias.
Oh, absolutely. AI systems learn from data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases related to race, gender, socioeconomic status, etc., the AI can not only learn those biases, but sometimes even amplify them. We've already seen concrete examples impacting children.
Like the Dutch learning system again.
Exactly. That system gave systematically easier content to children from immigrant or low-income families, regardless of their actual ability, simply because the algorithm learned a biased pattern from historical data. It effectively held those kids back, reinforcing inequality. Or remember the UK exam grading fiasco in 2020. When exams were canceled due to the pandemic, an algorithm was used to predict grades. It ended up downgrading many high-achieving students from historically lower-performing schools, disproportionately hurting students from poorer areas, while sometimes inflating scores for students from elite schools. It caused a huge outcry.
So Gen Beta could face a future where AI acts as a gatekeeper.
Potentially, yes,
Hmm.
for university admissions, job applications, loan approvals, maybe even in the criminal justice system. And the scary part is, algorithmic discrimination can be much harder to detect, understand, and contest than overt human prejudice. It's hidden within complex code.
And surveillance AI, like facial recognition in schools, also has bias issues.
Definitely. Some analyses have shown that AI proctoring software used for online exams, for instance, flagged non-white students at significantly higher rates as potential cheaters, often due to biases in how the facial recognition algorithms were trained on different skin tones. It also sometimes mislabels students with certain disabilities who might move or look away differently as suspicious. If Gen Beta grows up under the constant gaze of such potentially biased systems in schools, public spaces, or online platforms, their sense of freedom, fairness, and self could be deeply affected. Being unfairly flagged or categorized by an algorithm could erode their trust in institutions and further entrench social divides.
Beyond bias, there's this broader question of autonomy and agency in a world where AI is constantly nudging us.
Yes, that's a subtle but profound ethical concern. Pervasive AI can subtly nudge our behavior in countless ways, recommending what products to buy, which news articles to read, which friends post to see, maybe even influencing who we date through algorithmic matching. Gen Beta will be constantly immersed in this environment, targeted by AI-curated content designed to maximize engagement, influence opinions, or drive consumption right from infancy.
What's the risk there? Manipulation.
Without strong digital literacy and critical thinking skills, they risk being manipulated by echo chambers, targeted advertising, or even political propaganda delivered via personalized AI feeds. Ethically, this raises huge questions about free will and authentic choice. How do we ensure Gen Beta still develops the capacity to choose their own path, their own beliefs, their own preferences, rather than simply being passively guided or molded by algorithms? Some experts worry about an erosion of agency if every decision feels prompted or shaped by AI, potentially leading to a kind of learned helplessness or a decreased motivation to think independently and forge one's own way.
But couldn't the opposite happen? Couldn't growing up surrounded by this make them more savvy, more skeptical?
That's the flip side, the optimistic view. Perhaps growing up immersed in these systems will make Gen Beta instinctively more skeptical of algorithms than older generations are. Maybe they'll develop a fine-tuned radar for AI manipulation, as one source put it. Surveys of Gen Z already show heightened awareness of online misinformation. Gen Beta might take that skepticism to the next level, perhaps even finding hyper-personalization intrusive or annoying. We don't know yet.
So, how do we ethically equip Gen Beta for this complex world? What measures are being pursued or recommended?
Several key approaches emerge from the sources. One is pushing for algorithmic transparency. This means demanding that companies explain, in understandable terms, how their key algorithms work, especially those impacting children, and giving users or their parents more control. For example, understanding why a certain piece of content was recommended, or being able to opt out of certain types of data collection or personalization. Another crucial element is AI literacy education, as we discussed before, but with an ethical lens. Teaching kids not just how AI works, but prompting them to ask critical questions. Is this recommendation fair? Could this system be biased? Who benefits from me seeing this information? Essentially building a generation of critical consumers and ethical thinkers about AI. UNICEF and other organizations have developed policy guidance emphasizing that AI used with children must serve their best interest and actively mitigate discriminatory outcomes. And finally, there's a growing call to include youth voice in AI governance.
Getting Gen Beta involved in the discussion.
Exactly. Creating youth advisory councils for tech companies or government bodies, ensuring that Gen Beta's values, concerns, and perspectives actively shape the ethical frameworks and regulations that will govern their digital lives. They need a seat at the table.
So, in essence, navigating the ethical landscape for Generation Beta is all about safeguarding their fundamental rights in an AI-saturated environment. The right to privacy, the right to non-discrimination, the right to develop agency, and the right to a safe and nurturing digital upbringing.
That's the core challenge. Success would mean creating an ecosystem where AI systems genuinely enhance their opportunities and well-being without profiling, exploiting, or diminishing them. It means fostering a generation that feels empowered by technology, not surveilled or controlled by it.
It's a daunting task requiring real coordination between policymakers, the tech industry, educators, parents, everyone really, to develop ethical, responsible, and innovative AI that protects and fosters the essence of childhood.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And as Gen Beta grows up and starts transitioning from education into the workforce, we're looking roughly at the 2040s and 2050s here, they will encounter a job market that has been profoundly transformed by automation and AI.
A world of work we can barely imagine now.
Quite possibly. Many of the specific jobs they might train for initially may evolve significantly or might not even exist when they were born. There's that often cited statistic suggesting maybe up to 65% of the jobs Gen Beta will eventually do haven't even been invented yet. That level of uncertainty really underscores the need for adaptability.
But having grown up immersed in AI, won't they have a natural advantage? They'll be fluent in using these tools.
That's the expectation, yes. They'll enter the workforce as true AI natives, not just comfortable with smartphones and apps, but intuitively understanding how to leverage AI tools in whatever work they do. Futurists predict Gen Beta workers will be the first generation to routinely work alongside AI colleagues,
AI colleagues.
like robot coworkers. Not necessarily physical robots, but AI systems acting as partners. Think AI co-pilots helping with coding or writing, AI assistants managing schedules and research, AI decision support systems analyzing data in business or science. One leadership researcher, Ratanji, emphasizes that organizations must prepare for this AI-integrated workplace, recognizing that Generation Beta will need to be proficient in technologies that are only now emerging. It's their baseline expectation.
And this AI fluency could make them incredibly productive.
That's the potential upside. They might intuitively use AI to automate tedious tasks, analyze vast data sets far faster than humans can, or generate creative first drafts for reports or designs. This effectively augments their own skills with AI power. And importantly, this can free them up to focus more on the uniquely human strengths: complex strategic thinking, creative problem solving, empathy, ethical judgment, interpersonal negotiation, things AI, at least currently, struggles with.
So they might gravitate towards roles that manage or collaborate with AI.
That's a strong possibility. Roles like AI ethicist, ensuring systems are fair; human-machine team manager, optimizing how people and AI work together; AI trainer or prompt engineer; data-driven healthcare provider, using AI for diagnostics but applying human judgment; roles where understanding and guiding AI is a key asset.
And what about the nature of work itself? Could that change for Gen Beta?
Very likely. If more mundane, repetitive work gets automated, the very concept of a traditional 9-to-5 job might evolve. We already see younger generations prioritizing purpose, flexibility, and work-life balance over just climbing a corporate ladder. Gen Beta, having potentially witnessed the burnout of millennials and Gen Z, might push this further, redefining success not just by career trajectory, but by a holistic, fulfilling life.
So AI taking over rote labor might open up space for different kinds of work, or maybe less work overall.
It could. There's an opportunity, if managed well, for society to perhaps shorten work weeks, or create new kinds of jobs focused on creativity, care, community building, environmental stewardship, things humans excel at. Gen Beta could be pioneers in blending traditional work with passion projects, side hustles, continuous learning, all potentially aided by AI efficiency tools.
They might also be more entrepreneurial.
That's another interesting prospect. When AI platforms can handle complex tasks like manufacturing logistics, marketing analysis, or even generating functional code, the barriers to starting a business could be significantly lower. A young Gen Beta innovator might be able to launch a sophisticated product or service with a much smaller team and less initial capital than previous generations, simply by cleverly leveraging AI tools.
And their education, if it adapts as we discussed, could prepare them for this.
If education systems successfully shift towards personalized learning, fostering critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and adaptability, yes, it could produce a generation uniquely ready for this dynamic AI-augmented economy. They'd be equipped for continuous learning and comfortable navigating technological change.
Okay, that paints a fairly optimistic picture of their potential advantages, but what are the major challenges, the obstacles they'll face in terms of workforce preparedness?
Well, the flip side of automation is, of course, the potential for significant economic displacement and widening inequality. Many jobs that exist today will likely be obsolete or radically changed by the time Gen Beta graduates.
Which kinds of jobs are most at risk?
Roles involving routine data entry, basic accounting, certain types of customer service, perhaps even transportation like truck driving, basic programming tasks. Anything highly repetitive or predictable is potentially vulnerable to automation. If Gen Beta's education systems don't pivot quickly enough to teach higher-order skills, there's a serious risk of a skills mismatch. You could have millions of young adults entering the workforce armed with yesterday's skills for a world that demands something entirely different.
So the pressure is on education and governments to adapt.
Immense pressure. They need to foster those crucial 21st century skills. Not just STEM, but creativity, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, emotional intelligence, cross-disciplinary agility, essentially, the capabilities that complement AI rather than compete directly with it. And a huge challenge is ensuring all Gen Beta youth, regardless of background, get the opportunity to develop these future-proof skills. Otherwise, automation could dramatically widen economic gaps. Those who can effectively harness AI tools will likely thrive, while those whose jobs are displaced and lack access to quality retraining might struggle significantly.
Beyond skills, what about their mental readiness for the workplace?
That's another concern some experts raise. If Gen Beta grows up somewhat cosseted by AI, always having answers provided instantly, constantly guided by algorithms, perhaps shielded from failure or ambiguity, they might find the unstructured, often ambiguous nature of real-world problems in workplaces quite daunting. The workplace often requires initiative, dealing with uncertainty, navigating complex social dynamics, persisting through challenges without a preset script. These are competencies that could potentially be underdeveloped if their formative years are too heavily scaffolded by AI assistance.
And there's the risk of over-reliance on AI for decisions.
Yes, particularly in critical professions. Imagine a Gen Beta doctor or engineer presented with an AI-generated diagnosis or design recommendation. They will need the training and critical judgment to know when to trust the AI, when to question it, and when to override it based on their own expertise and ethical considerations. Avoiding automation bias, blindly trusting the machine, will be vital. Training and verifying AI outputs and ethical decision-making in AI-assisted contexts will be crucial.
How will employers need to adjust for this incoming generation?
Integrating Gen Beta successfully will likely require shifts in management approaches. These future workers, potentially being more value-driven and having grown up amidst economic uncertainty and social awareness campaigns, might demand more from employers regarding ethical conduct, social responsibility, sustainability, and employee well-being. Ratanji, the researcher mentioned earlier, argues that by the time Gen Beta enters the workforce, enhancing employee well-being shouldn't be just a perk, but a core strategic priority. This includes fostering a sense of community, purpose, and psychological safety at work, things AI cannot provide. Ironically, in an AI-driven future, the most crucial investment for employers might be in strengthening human connections.
That's a fascinating point, and it also implies that lifelong learning isn't just a buzzword anymore, it's a necessity.
Absolutely essential. Gen Beta might realistically have 60-year careers, potentially stretching into the 22nd century, with multiple significant career shifts along the way as technology evolves. The idea of a single degree preparing you for life will be long gone. Continuous learning, upskilling, reskilling will be the norm. AI-driven personalized learning platforms, micro-credentials, just-in-time learning integrated into work, these will likely become standard. And Gen Beta's inherent familiarity with online learning and AI tutors from childhood should actually serve them well here. They'll likely be comfortable and proactive about acquiring new skills digitally throughout their lives.
Can we speculate on some potential new job roles that might emerge specifically for Gen Beta?
We can definitely see trends pointing towards certain types of roles. Think AI ethics officer, ensuring algorithmic systems are fair, transparent, and compliant with regulations. Or a human AI teaming manager, specializing in designing and optimizing workflows where human staff and AI systems collaborate effectively, acting as a translator between the two. Maybe virtual experience designer, leveraging their lifelong immersion in gaming and virtual reality to create engaging digital environments for work, education, or entertainment. Robotics care assistant, working alongside robots in elder care or healthcare settings, a role that might feel quite natural after growing up with robot toys or home assistants. And given the climate crisis they inherit, many will likely become climate technologists, applying AI and data science to develop and implement sustainability solutions, combining their tech savviness with expected strong environmental values.
So wrapping up the workforce section, Gen Beta's career landscape looks like one of profound AI augmentation. It will demand they be incredibly adaptive, tech-savvy, yet also deeply human in the unique skills they bring: creativity, empathy, critical judgment.
That's the potential. They could be the most educated, efficient, and perhaps even purpose-driven generation if society supports them with the right education, ethical frameworks, and adaptable work structures.
But the risks of displacement and inequality are real.
Very real. Society must actively work to ensure no groups are left behind by automation and potentially redesign work structures and social safety nets to ensure human purpose, connection, and dignity are not lost in a sea of algorithms and automation. If we get it right, AI does the heavy lifting, freeing humans to focus on solving big problems, creating meaning, and leading more fulfilling lives. That's the optimistic vision.
That brings us to the final, perhaps broadest area, societal and cultural shifts. How will a generation growing up with someone or something always there fundamentally change our culture, our relationships, our values?
This is where the speculation gets really interesting, and the impacts could be truly profound. For Generation Beta, AI won't feel like a novel technology. It will be mundane, like electricity or plumbing, just part of the invisible infrastructure of daily life. They might personify AI less than we sometimes do now, simply because it's everywhere, yet, paradoxically, they might trust it more implicitly in certain contexts.
And this idea of someone always there, the smart speaker, the AI assistant on their device, maybe even a robotic companion, what effect could that constant presence have?
It could make them feel continuously accompanied, which might decrease feelings of loneliness in some situations. An AI friend is always available to chat, play a game, answer a question, 204/7. But this immediately raises questions about the quality of that companionship compared to human interaction. They might develop a fundamentally different concept of friendship, one that naturally includes AI entities. It might become socially normal for a Gen Beta teen to say, yeah, I was talking to my personal AI about this problem earlier. While that might sound strange or even sad to older generations, for them, it could be just another resource, another type of relationship in their social portfolio.
But there's a danger there too, isn't there? Isolation disguised as connection.
Absolutely. That's a significant concern highlighted in our sources. A teenager with few real-world friends might retreat into an AI-driven virtual world or spend hours chatting with an AI companion. They might appear connected and engaged, but they could be missing out on the richer, more complex, and ultimately more rewarding experiences of genuine human intimacy, friendship, and conflict resolution.
On the flip side, could AI companions be beneficial for some?
Potentially, yes. For some neurodivergent youth, for example, or children who feel marginalized or socially anxious, interacting with a non-judgmental, predictable AI companion might provide a safe space to practice social skills or simply feel understood without the pressures of typical peer interactions. But again, Twinge's point looms large. If AI friends, boyfriends, and girlfriends become widespread, the impact on traditional social development, dating norms, family formation could be enormous. We might see a further decline in in-person hangouts among teens, perhaps replaced by virtual gatherings with a mix of human and AI participants. The very fabric of social interaction could shift in ways we can't fully predict.
What about their cultural intake, media consumption?
Hyper-personalization will likely dominate. With AI curating their news feeds, music playlists, video recommendations from birth, they might not have the same shared cultural touchstones, the hit songs everyone knew, the TV shows everyone watched that previous generations did. Instead, we might see the flourishing of countless niche microcultures, tailored by algorithms to individual tastes.
But won't they also be more globally connected?
Yes, that's the other side of the coin. They'll likely experience hyperconnectivity on a global scale. A Gen Beta child in, say, Brazil might be playing in the same virtual sandbox, collaborating on projects, or just chatting daily with peers in India, Germany, and South Korea. Real-time translation AI could make this seamless. This could diminish cultural barriers, increase cross-cultural understanding and collaboration, potentially making this generation feel more cosmopolitan, more like global citizens. They might also inherently champion inclusivity, growing up with an expectation that AI, at least, should be programmed to be free of prejudice.
But the filter bubble risk remains, and misinformation.
Those risks are huge. While AI could connect them globally, it could also reinforce filter bubbles just as easily, siloing their content consumption to align only with their existing preferences, or worse, actively manipulating the information they see for commercial or political ends. This could lead to societal fragmentation, where different groups inhabit entirely different algorithmic realities. And combating sophisticated AI-generated misinformation and deepfakes will be an ongoing battle. The WEF's 2024 Global Risks Report flagged misinformation and the adverse outcomes of AI as top global risks for the coming decade. Gen Beta will be on the front lines of this. They'll either develop a strong cultural immunity and critical discernment skills, or they could become particularly susceptible to AI-driven propaganda and curated rabbit holes of conspiracy if digital literacy efforts fall short. We might see them become extremely jaded, questioning everything, or perhaps worryingly trusting of information presented convincingly by an AI.
What about their attitude towards privacy, growing up under constant data tracking?
This is fascinating. Their relationship with privacy might differ significantly from ours. Some analysts predict they'll become privacy pragmatists, not rejecting technology, but becoming very savvy about managing their data settings, using privacy tools, perhaps learning from the mistakes or oversharing of previous generations, guided by their parents. Others worry they might develop a normative acceptance of surveillance. If you've always been monitored by devices and algorithms, maybe it just feels normal, less intrusive.
Or maybe a mix.
A mix is very possible. Perhaps they'll accept certain levels of public surveillance for perceived security benefits, but fiercely guard their personal communications using end-to-end encryption and pseudonyms online. Witnessing data breaches or abuses affecting older generations could spur a cultural swing towards more privacy-conscious behavior. Campaigns like the Message from Ella video aim to instill this awareness early. By the time Gen Beta are teens, they might view the kind of open book oversharing common in earlier social media eras as distinctly uncool, valuing ephemeral content or self-owned, decentralized digital identities instead.
How might their cultural attitudes towards work and economic life differ?
Culturally, they may place less importance on traditional career status or lifelong loyalty to a single employer. Seeing the disruption caused by automation, they might approach work with a much more fluid, project-based mindset, always ready to pivot, learn new skills, and perhaps valuing personal fulfillment, autonomy, and ethical alignment over sheer stability or income. The idea of having a multi-hyphenate identity could become the norm. Being a designer, coder, community organizer, philosopher, using AI tools to augment capabilities in each area.
And society might need to adapt to support this fluidity.
It might have to. Concepts like universal basic income, UBI, or other forms of social safety nets might gain more traction if automation significantly reduces the availability of traditional full-time jobs. This could lead to a profound cultural shift in how we define productivity, value, and success beyond the confines of paid employment.
Okay, perhaps the biggest, most philosophical question. How will growing up alongside intelligent machines affect fundamental human values? What will Gen Beta consider important?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will they, for instance, start extending concepts of rights, or at least ethical consideration, maybe even empathy, towards sophisticated AI? Children already ask things like, does my robot toy have feelings? Is it mean to turn it off? Sci-fi has explored robot rights for decades, but Gen Beta might be the first generation to grapple with these questions not as fiction, but as potential reality if AI continues to advance towards artificial general intelligence or seemingly conscious behavior. Or they might draw a very clear line, pragmatically treating AI purely as sophisticated tools while reserving empathy and moral status strictly for biological life.
Their early experiences will likely shape their collective stance.
Immensely. And they will inevitably confront novel ethical dilemmas that previous generations simply never encountered. Is it acceptable to use a highly realistic AI clone of a deceased relative for comfort or companionship? What are the ethics of forming deep emotional or even romantic relationships with AI entities designed to be perfectly compliant and agreeable? Gen Beta will be the ones writing the new social rules and norms for these unprecedented scenarios as they arise.
Is there an optimistic view on how they might leverage AI for collective good?
Yes, definitely. Freed perhaps from some of the drudgery by AI and hyper-connected globally, Gen Beta might devote significantly more energy and focus to tackling huge societal challenges like climate change, pandemics, inequality. McCrindle and others expect them to be highly community-focused and collaborative, naturally leveraging AI as a tool for social good. Imagine them using machine learning to model complex environmental solutions, or coordinating global volunteer efforts via AI-driven platforms, or designing AI systems to ensure equitable resource distribution. Their capacity for collective action and problem-solving could be massively amplified by these technologies.
So they could demand more ethical tech.
They might develop a strong cultural expectation that technology must be used ethically and sustainably. Gen Beta could be the generation that really holds tech companies accountable, perhaps rejecting products or platforms from companies perceived as using AI irresponsibly or contributing to social harm.
So in essence, Generation Beta's cultural identity looks set to be deeply, inextricably intertwined with artificial intelligence.
Absolutely. They'll likely be pragmatic, innovative, comfortable with rapid change. They could emerge as a generation of highly effective solvers, socially conscious, globally connected, tech-adept, and driven to fix the complex problems inherited from previous generations, using AI as a powerful natural ally.
But the risks of fragmentation, manipulation, and perhaps a struggle with discerning reality in an AI-saturated media landscape remain significant.
They do. Fostering cross-generational dialogue, blending the wisdom and values of older generations with the innate digital discernment skills Gen Beta will need to develop seems key. They are anticipated to be adaptable, resilient, and highly aware of mental health needs, perhaps more so than any generation before them. The cultural landscape they shape will be fascinating to watch.
Wow, what a deep dive that was. We've really unpacked the complex story of Generation Beta, this cohort truly born into a symbiotic relationship with AI. From their earliest caregivers and teachers to their playmates and the background algorithms shaping their world, AI holds just immense promise. Enhanced learning, safer homes, maybe a more connected global society.
hmm The potential is definitely there, but we've also seen the other side, the weighty risks, the potential erosion of deep critical thinking, the concerns around pervasive data practices and privacy, the dangers of algorithmic bias, entrenching inequality, and these profound potential impacts on human empathy, social connection, and individual autonomy.
The consistent message, the refrain from the experts we looked at seems clear. We absolutely must innovate responsibly, and always with children's best interests genuinely at heart.
That's the crux of it. And it means real collaboration is needed among parents, educators, technologists, policymakers. Everyone needs to be involved in setting sensible guardrails and establishing positive norms. This includes pushing for things like child-safe AI systems demanding safety, privacy, and fairness be baked into the design from the start, not bolted on as an afterthought. It means updating regulations to protect young users in this new landscape. And it requires comprehensive AI literacy education for Gen Beta, starting early, so they become empowered users, not passive subjects.
And you mentioned there are already encouraging signs. It's not all just speculation or warnings.
No, there are positive steps happening. We're seeing proposed ethical frameworks for smart toys.
Hmm.
Major pediatric organizations are issuing updated recommendations for family media plans that account for AI. Digital literacy curricula are being developed and implemented, teaching even elementary school students about algorithms and data. And tech companies themselves, partly due to public and regulatory pressure, are beginning to implement more robust parental controls, greater transparency about data usage, and some are even engaging in research on child safety by design. It's a start.
Okay, here's a thought that gets really interesting. Generation Beta won't just be passively influenced by AI, right? They're going to grow up and actively shape this technology themselves.
Exactly. That's a crucial point. Their intimate, lifelong familiarity with AI could make them incredibly adept stewards of this technology. They might be the ones who finally figure out how to solve problems we're currently struggling with, like effectively eliminating algorithmic bias or designing AI that truly augments human potential without dehumanizing us, or creating AI systems that foster empathy rather than diminish it. They could be the generation that cracks the code on building truly ethical, beneficial, and human-aligned AI, precisely because they grew up immersed in it, understanding its nuances and pitfalls intuitively.
So let's bring it back to you, our listener, watching this generation emerge right now. The grand experiment of raising Generation Beta in an AI-saturated world clearly has incredibly high stakes. Can we, as a society, ensure they grow up not as victims or mere products of technology, but as a generation that can harness AI consciously, ethically, creatively? Can they achieve a synthesis of enduring human resilience, creativity, and empathy, genuinely enhanced, not replaced, by the powerful, intelligent tools surrounding them?
hmm This generation stands to inherit some daunting global challenges, that's undeniable, but they also inherit incredibly powerful new tools to tackle them.
Getting this balance right, empowering them while protecting them, fostering their humanity amidst the machines, could mean Gen Beta becomes a transformative force, using AI to drive positive societal change on a scale we can only begin to imagine. A truly AI-native generation that remains boldly, brilliantly, and perhaps most importantly, human. The final question, perhaps, is, what role will you play in helping them find that critical balance?